Kabane was an ugly, broken, poor child who was cursed with the demon god's eternal blessing to erase the blood of humanity, and was abandoned to die from the day he was born. But after his foster mom enslaved him to the fields, the animals began mysteriously dying in the village, so she hired a hitman to end his worthless life. So when Yatero arrived, he asked for Kabane to become his servant, forcing him to take a bath for the first time in years. Inside of his room, Yatero introduced himself as a detective of mysterious phenomena, and asked him if he had noticed anything weird about their village recently. Realizing he was referring to the dead corpses of the animals, Kabane revealed that he was the one who had to dispose of their bodies, and said he always found their organs chewed apart by a monster. He had noticed that it happened on every morning after the new moon, so Kabane told him that it would happen again in 5 days. So to pass the time, they spent the day working the fields together, but Kabane's useless cousin was angry that he was finally having a friend for the first time in his life. As the days went on, Kabane and Yatero moved together through the village, and would spend their nights talking about the lives they never had. But one day, when Yatero noticed his necklace, Kabane told him that it was the only thing his parents left for him before disappearing. So as Yatero examined the talisman, he realized that it was a life stone, revealing that his parents did not abandon him, since they left him with an object made by the gods. However, when he asked him if he wanted to see his parents again, explaining that he could track them down, Kabane wondered if he really wanted to meet them. On the night of the new moon, while Kabane was waiting for Yatero, the disgusting kid found him outside, and began screaming at him for snatching away his opportunity to go to Tokyo. But when he began to remind him that his parents abandoned him, and that he had been nothing more than a waste of space, Kabane told him that he wasn't abandoned, pissing off Shiro. However, when Shiro yanked his necklace off, Kabane punched him away, but his body awakened the demon powers within him, causing him to grow thirsty for blood. And as Shiro ran away, Kabane managed to recover his necklace, returning back to his human form. By the time Yatero arrived, Kabane told him that he was the monster, but as Yatero realized that he was under control, Yatero told him that there were demons lurking in the shadows called kimono, and said they slept with humans to have demonic children. As Yatero explained that Kabane was one of those hanios, he revealed that his body was bloodless, and was capable of immortality. Admitting that he also wasn't human, Yatero summoned a gun out of thin smoke, and told him that his life stone was suppressing his thirst for blood. For that reason, he was sure that Kabane didn't kill the animals, and told him that the real monster was still out there. At the same time, Shiro was running through the woods, but when he began trying to hide inside a barn, a pair of ghouls attacked him. Before they could devour his face, Yatero killed off one of them, but when Kabane held off the other, Yatero told him that the only way to stop it was by cutting its head off. With a twist, Kabane broke its neck before chopping off its head. But when they noticed a bite mark on its body, they found another ghoul devouring a livestock. Before Yatero could shoot, it nearly crushed him, but Kabane's attack allowed him to fire a shot. So when it charged at Kabane, ramming into a tree, Yatero fired multiple shots. But just as it began regenerating, Kabane dipped a fist into its mouth, severing its head instantly. When they began heading back, Kabane revealed that he couldn't continue staying in the village, afraid he would be blamed for all the incidents. But at that moment, Yatero pointed his gun at him, confessing that he was actually hired to kill him. As he revealed that his auntie had always known he was a demon, Yatero decided to ask for a second time if he wanted to meet his parents. After arriving at the home, Yatero told the ugly witch that he took care of the culprit, offering to dispose of Kabane's body. But after leaving the village, Kabane came back to life, wondering why he wasn't dead. But Yatero reminded the dumbass that he was immortal. So after they arrived at Tokyo, Yatero showed him to his office, explaining that it was also his home, and told him to change into a new set of clothes. A few minutes later, when two ugly kids arrived, they spotted Kabane's pathetic face, and wondered who the fuck he was. When he introduced himself, Yatero told him that the kids were called Shiki and Akira, and asked him if he wished to join their demon hunter team, but told him to rethink his useless life before making a decision. Wanting to mark his territory, Shiki asked how old he was, but when Kabane told him that he was 13, the flat-faced dickhead demanded he respect him as his senior. However, he only respected people who play the sponsor of today's video, Stella Sora, the coolest top-down light-action adventure RPG game ever made. If you love fantasy with a blend of the modern world and you enjoy engaging combat experience through fantastic, episodic narrative, then Stella Sora is the right game for you. Because in this fantastical world, you play as the tyrant, who awakens in the continent of Nova after a timeless slumber and embarks on a journey full of fun and adventure. Along the way, you will recruit a squad of trekkers, a trio with unique personalities and skills, even building your own party, exploring mysterious monoliths and uncovering secrets. Inside this transformed world, knights wield flip phones, adventurers sip soda from vending machines, and witches ride broomsticks while capturing headlines with their cameras. All of which adds charm and distinct style to the gameplay, giving it a perfect blend of fantasy and the modern world. As your journey unfolds, the choices you make will weave a complex tapestry with the fate of trekkers, affecting your dialogue, guiding their strategies, and even steering the narrative. And in this special version, you can acquire the new 5-star trekker Chitos, an aqua vanguard, and a formidable warrior whose blade can summon flowing currents and shape them into water serpents that crash through enemy lines. Beyond story mode lies a realm of new trials, so utilize records from past monolith runs to tackle diverse gameplay modes, from intense duels with the best trekkers to bullet bells and limitless battles. In addition, you will encounter hot girls with distinct personalities from varied factions and can use the in-game features to exchange messages or invite them on unforgettable adventures, so what are you waiting for? Click the link in my description to download and use redemption code BOSSGIFT to obtain special rewards. Because while we'll be dominating this fantastical world of Stella Sora, Kabane will still be an ugly, disgusting, hopeless loser who looked and smelled like expired tofu.
Damn!
After he walked away, Akira apologized for his rudeness, but when she noticed Kabane was staring at her, she wondered what the matter was.
すみません。綺麗な女性だなと思って。言っとくけど、僕、男の子だから。
No, you're fucking not.
No, really,
I said, no, you're fucking not.
カバネ君のバカ。
The following day, when Yatero took them on their first mission, they arrived at the restricted area where he gave the first responders his card, revealing that he was the exterminator. So as they recognized him as a specialist, a police officer decided to let him in. But when the man tried saying that children weren't allowed inside, he said they were also specialists. Inside the house, they met another group of police officers, but after they explained the situation, they noticed 2 kids crying. However, when Yatero decided to take a look inside, he asked the children to see the situation. As they did, Akira found little bugs devouring human bodies, and as the sight scared him off, Yatero revealed that they were called senchichu. Usually, they were harmless critters that ate the skin while a human was asleep. But Yatero revealed that something must have attracted them inside the room. Once they managed to get it out, he was sure the bugs would go back to their nest, but wasn't sure that he could rescue the victims. With one of the police officers starting to lose his shit, he suggested they burn the bodies, as he thought they were all dead, but one of the kids began saying that their mother was alive. Wanting to give it a shot, Shiki began saying that he could do it, and explained that he would use his silk. So as he shot silk across the room, he managed to form a spider web. But just as the bugs got stuck on it, they began eating it, forcing Shiki to give up. However, Kabane thought he could get it done, and offered to go inside, so as Yatero agreed, he told him to remove the item at the center of the swarm. As Kabane entered the room, the bugs swarmed him, but with Kabane having no blood, they couldn't inject a paralytic into his body. On top of that, he wasn't afraid, so as he raised up the item, all the bugs vanished. Before long, the kids rushed to their mother, but as Kabane watched them cry, he wondered what a family was. So later that day, when they were about to leave, he decided to ask Yatero if he could meet his parents after agreeing to work for him. So as Yatero told him that he could, he said he would take a fee from his pay as his own commission. Excited that he was staying, Akira told him that it would be nice working with him. At the office, Shiki decided to reveal that his mother was an arachne, which was a spider kimono, and said it was the reason why he could shoot spider silk. However, when Kabane wondered if his parents were still alive, Shiki couldn't care less about someone who abandoned him. After they had all gone to bed, Yatero reported to the superintendent that he had adopted a fascinating kid, and said that he had a life stone on him. So as he revealed that he intended to look into it, he told her that Kabane could either be a threat or their only hope. The following day, after he told Shiki to take him to the superintendent since he was their newest member, Shiki told him that he couldn't stand the lady. However, when Kabane wondered who she was, Yataro revealed that her name was Inari. But Yataro decided to give him a good luck charm. A few minutes later, while they were walking through the city, Yataro noticed all the people, but when Akira tried pulling him into a cafe, Shiki screamed at them to keep up. After they arrived inside the police station, an officer began saying that the superintendent was too busy to see a group of lousy children like them. And even when Shiki explained that they had an appointment with her, the man still wouldn't believe them, and told him that no one would ever book an appointment with his wretched face. At that moment, a girl arrived, and as she wondered which one of them was Kabane, she asked him to follow her. Her name was Kon, but when Shiki tried to come along, she told him to back away, and said that no one wanted a loser like him around. So as Kabane followed her, Shiki began boiling over. When they arrived at a meeting room, Kon kicked Kabane inside, so as a red-haired woman welcomed him, she revealed that she was Superintendent Inari of the Metropolitan Police, and asked him to sit. She had been waiting for him, so when she asked to see his lifestone, Kabane decided to show her. Even so, the bitch wanted more and asked to see it up close, so as she examined it, she told him that it was a rare item. As she explained that kimono took in mental, physical, emotional, and other energies produced by humans, she said that they lived off of them, and revealed that she was on a different side of a coin from Yataro. However, for the sake of assisting humans, they'd agreed on becoming temporary partners. But Inari told him that the situation was now different since he'd shown up with the lifestone. Because with this lifestone, they wouldn't need to feed off of humans, and Kon hacked his head off instantly. With her plans having played out, Inari commanded that his head be collected while his body was disposed of, so 2 policemen appeared to do the dirty work. However, when Inari tried lifting the suitcase, she discovered it was too heavy, so Kon offered to carry it. Excited by this, Inari called her a good girl, but her words made the girl blush. Inari thought she could mass-produce the lifestone, and was convinced that it would be the end of all of their problems. So she told Kon that she was heading out to investigate the object. Just as she was about to leave, she remembered Shiki and Akira and told Kon to eliminate both of them. At the same time, Shiki was getting agitated at the reception, thinking something must have gone wrong. But when Kabane arrived before their eyes, Akira decided to ask what was in the case. When he explained that he was supposed to deliver it to Inari later, Akira noticed he was weird. But when Shiki wondered if he was baited by the ugly cat girl, his words made her ruin her own disguise. So as she decided to reveal her true self, she told them that she'd kill them. At that moment, she jumped on top of a railing and began shooting flames from her tail. However, when Shiki realized she could start a fire, he began wondering if her brain was in her ass, but she told him that everything and everyone belonged to Inari. Figuring the policemen were all under her illusion, Shiki thought Inari was the biggest scum of the earth. But Kon decided to intensify her attacks. With their desperation growing, Shiki managed to shield them, but when Kon began saying that there was no way they could survive, Shiki pulled the case away from her. However, when he opened it, they found Kabane's head inside, but Akira passed out. At the same time, Kon was devastated at losing the case, and as she realized she wouldn't be called a good girl anymore, her rage made her turn into a fox. However, she discovered they had escaped and began searching for them. But Shiki made his way up the stairs. As Kabane thanked Shiki for rescuing him, he asked him to throw him towards Kon, saying that he could take her down. Even though Shiki thought the idea was sick, he realized Kabane could pull it off, so when Kon rushed at him, he threw Kabane's head, allowing him to bite into her flesh. Just then, Shiki realized the fires were gone, but as Kabane regenerated his body, he decided to give him his jacket. After they left the station, they found Yataro waiting, but as he told them that things went the way he expected, he revealed that he would have saved their ass if they couldn't make it out. Meanwhile, Inari had left in a cab, but as the shitty low-life began adoring the lifestone, wondering how much money she was going to make off of it, it turned into a Buddha. At the same time, Yataro began calling, and as he told her that she owed him one for betraying him, Kabane vomited the real lifestone. The fake lifestone was the good luck charm Yataro had given him, as he had expected that Inari would try to steal it. Meanwhile, Kon was injured in an alley, but was still determined to deliver Kabane's head. That night, while Yataro and the children were heading to the office, he showed Kabane their signage, and explained that the light attracted kimono, as well as humans who had been empowered by kimono. This was one of the ways they got jobs, and he revealed that Inari had actually made it. Right then, they realized Khan had found them, but while she was still obsessing about acquiring Kabane's head, she passed out. At the office, she began eating slices of pizza, but as she explained that she needed to finish her mission because she was a good girl, Yataro stopped her from attacking again. Realizing this ungrateful bitch was bad news, Shiki suggested they take her down. But Yataro had already figured that she was blindly loyal to Inari, and told her that she had poor manners for standing on top of tables. As the girl decided to apologize, Yataro told her to clean up after herself, having figured that he could control her using her fear for Inari. But when a man entered the office, Yataro realized they had a customer. Before long, the customer was drunk, but when Kabane wondered why half of the office was a bar, Shiki explained that it was a relic of Yataro's past. Apparently, before he took them in, Yataro had run the business with a partner, so Shiki explained that the bar was his partner's pursuit. Yataro had decided to keep it even though his partner was gone. But Shiki warned Kabane to never talk to Yataro about it. As the worthless man revealed that there was a girl he liked, he said he knew nothing about her, but wished he could know everything. As he told them that he felt love for her, Kabane asked Yataro if learning about love would help him to understand his parents, and wondered if he would find love by supporting the loser. So with Yataro wanting him to discover the answer for himself, he said he would leave the case to him if he was up for it, and told Shiki and Akira to offer him support. At the same time, he told Khan that he would give her Kabane's head as a reward if she helped out with the job. But when Shiki wondered if he was sleeping with his brain in his ass, Yataro told him to calm down. As he decided to explain to the loser that they were in charge of the case, the man called them children, and was certain that it wouldn't work. But as he eventually agreed, he revealed that his name was Yoruno. He told them to meet him at Shinjuku Station's east exit tomorrow night, but when he saw a mouse, he caught it immediately, and revealed his bag full of mice. He said he wanted to give them to his crush as a present, but Yataro revealed that his crush was capable of feline possession, which allowed her to turn into an attractive person and seduce people. The following night, while they were waiting for her exit, Yoruno revealed her photo and told them that her name was Mao. Just then, they noticed a two-tailed cat, so as Shiki figured only a cat could enchant a rat, he thought that was her. So after trailing her into an alley, Kabane asked the cat if it was Mao, explaining that they were from Yataro's counseling office, so she asked what they wanted from her. Going straight to the point, Kabane began explaining that their client had fallen in love with her, and that he wanted to know everything about her. But as she transformed into a human, she told the lovesick moron that she already had a spot for him. At that moment, 3 ugly cats appeared, so Mao revealed that they were former customers, but wondered why the moron hadn't turned into a cat himself if her seduction had hit him already. However, Kabane told her that Yoruno was actually in love with her, but while she was laughing at the loser, Kon caught her from behind. As she brought him to Yoruno, she told him to state his terms. Deciding to reveal his rat face, Yoruno showed her the present he brought, and began saying that she was the first ray of light he ever had in his worthless life. Because ever since he was born, everyone had ignored his ugly rat face, so he asked her to turn him into a cat, and said he wanted to live for her forever, but his words left her in awe. A few hours later, after Kabane and the other kids returned to the office, Yataro told Kon to close her eyes, and using an orange, he created a fake head for her to take away. But Shiki wondered if she would eventually figure out that it was an illusion. However, the following day, after Yataro told the children that Yoruno and Mao had become a couple, he showed them a photograph and said they'd begun living together, but the thought nearly made Shiki throw up. When Yataro decided to reveal that another job just came in, he explained that construction workers were meeting unnatural deaths in the river flowing under Shibuya, and said they were supposed to investigate the cause. A few hours later, Kabane arrived at the river, but when Akira joined him in a containment suit, hoping to keep the dirt off him, he slipped before going far. When they began advancing deeper into the sewer, a giant frog captured Akira, but as Kabane hurled a metal bar at it, he managed to catch him. Before it could attack again, a dog bit into it, sending it back into the water. So as Akira recognized it as Yataro's pet, they found a nylon pouch attached to it, and realized it had a letter from Yataro as well as a bottle of blood. While reading the letter, they discovered that the monster was one of many frogs kimono who had become aberrant after eating people, and had lost their sense of reasoning. As a result, they needed to be eliminated, and they discovered that they could be attracted with the blood. With Kabane ready for the challenge, he directed Akira to pour it into the river, and in an instant, several frogs leaped out of the water. So as Kabane began fighting them off, with the dog saving Akira's ass, he began trembling in fear. Just as Kabane managed to save him again, Akira began wondering why he was so weak, but as he remembered that his brother had once told him to accept being a weak loser, he grew determined to change it. And as he awakened his innate ice powers, freezing everything around him, he realized that even Kabane was trapped in ice. However, Kabane told him that he was incredible for taking out all the monsters, and Akira was excited at his compliment. A few days later, while Kabane was cleaning, he remembered that Yataro had warned him to never open the door at the end of the hallway. But while he was wondering how he could move the boxes, a hand pulled him inside. Later that day, when they noticed he was missing, Shiki explained that they found his mop lying in the hall. But as Yataro heard these words, they began rushing towards the room. As they found Kabane inside, Yataro realized his worst fear had come to life, but a man commanded Kabane to serve him water and food. The man's name was Mihai, and as he began saying that Kabane was a submissive, obedient slave, Akira wondered if he had been in this room the whole time. As Mihai affirmed that he had, he revealed that he was a vampire, and said he provided ICT for Yataro's counseling office. As he told Kabane that he was appointing him to be his salesperson, he explained that his job would be to always stand by his side, to open and close water bottles, but Kabane told him that it would be the greatest honor of his life. When Yataro told the children to step outside, he began to explain that Mihai was his old acquaintance, and said he possessed superhuman levels of physical abilities and knowledge. On top of that, he had attained pro-level skills and knowledge in everything he read, and was even starting to grow weary of this world until he got caught up in Japanese online games. As Yataro went on to say that he was better off gaming, he told them that Mihai could be a real asshole when he was idle, but as he admitted that he was in charge of protecting all of their data, he warned them to stay away from his room. However, the next day, Kabane was serving him water again. But when Shiki warned Mihai not to turn Kabane into a slave, Mihai decided to challenge them to arm wrestling, saying that he would free Kabane if they won. Just as Shiki accepted, he lost every attempt, and even when Kabane gave it a shot, he lost as soon as it began. That evening, while Kabane was out in the street, he began wondering how he could get stronger, but Kon fell out of a tree. However, Kon told him that it didn't matter anymore, as she revealed that Inari had kicked her out and had even found her a replacement. However, Kabane was only curious about testing his own strength, and challenged her to fight him. So as they went at each other, with Kon shoving him to the ground and landing a series of punches, Kabane managed to knock her away. At that moment, the girl began to cry, and as she called herself a bad girl for losing, Kabane decided to hold her hand. At the office, Mihai had stepped out of his room, but as he revealed that Kabane broke his wrist while they were arm wrestling, he said it would take a week for him to heal. So that night, he told the children that Yataro wanted them to handle a mission, and Shiki was excited at the thought. 3 years ago, there had been a series of incidents in an electronics company that resulted in 16 people hugging the ground. But Mihai thought something shady was going on in the company since it drastically stopped. Their mission was to get hold of any information regarding the mystery of how the deaths went down to 0, and Mihai told the children that Yataro trusted them. But Yataro was trying to get out of a locked room. As Shiki infiltrated the company, Mihai's electronic car began to follow him, so as he explained its functions, he told Shiki that it would be his partner. When Shiki noticed a light was on, he found dozens of workers inside the room. But when one of them burst outside, saying that he quit, an ugly bitch appeared before him. Her name was Kaga, the manager, and as she pretended to care for the overworked man, she decided to lead him away. But as Shiki followed them, he found a mosquito face sucking on his brain until he passed out. By the time he woke up, he was brainwashed all over again and began returning to work. When Kabane began suggesting they attack, Shiki told him that they stood no chance. So as he suggested they fall back until they had discussed a plan with Yataro, Kabane agreed. However, Mihai was disappointed that they were too cautious, and as he considered Shiki's rationality to be boring, he began to ram his car into the wall, causing a noise that drew the girls' attention. Deciding to check it out, one of them found the car in the hallway, but as she thought it was a mere toy, she decided to hide it away, and said the sound must have been from a box of equipment. However, Kaga suggested they check around. But just as they left, the mosquito face returned, having seen through Shiki's invisibility. Just before she could attack, Mihai's car electrocuted her, forcing her to pass out. But when Mihai tried telling Shiki to leave, he discovered the boy was having a panic attack. Figuring he must have been through some kind of trauma, Mihai thought his rationality and caution was only a false front to conceal it, and realized that Shiki would be worth playing around with. At the same time, Kabane and Akira were running towards him, but as Mihai told them that he accidentally alerted the enemies, they soon came across one of the girls. Inside the hallway, Shiki was still too afraid to move, but just as the mosquito girl managed to stand, Shiki began wishing someone would save him. Meanwhile, Kabane had already defeated the other girl, and was dragging her by the hair, so as he told Shiki that they were heading towards him, he said he would be fine on his own. Realizing his opportunity, Mihai began telling him that Kabane had a lot of faith in him, and wondered what Kabane would think when he discovered that he was nothing but a loser, but Shiki grew angry and damaged his toy. However, as he realized he could move again, he managed to dodge her attack, but as she thought he was trying to escape, she decided to increase her sensitivity and began looking for him. All the while, Mihai was watching everything at the office, and just as he figured out Shiki's plan, the mosquito girl began picking up his scent all around her. However, when she tried attacking randomly, she got entangled in his webs, and Shiki revealed that he had been on the ceiling the whole time. So as he landed on her eyeballs, knocking her out, he soon fell down from exhaustion. Just then, he remembered that Yatero had once told him that he found something out about his parents, and even though he had refused to listen, telling him that the past didn't matter, he wondered now if he was ready for that conversation. At that moment, Kabane and Akira arrived, and as they told him that he was impressive, he soon restrained Kaga. When Akira wondered what their next plan should be, Kabane suggested they finish them off, so as Shiki agreed, the last of the girls arrived. Her name was Nika, and as she began calling the two girls a disgrace to adulthood, she apologized on their behalf, and suggested that they let it all pass as their secret, as it was the only way she'd let them leave alive. However, Kabane told her that they wouldn't leave even if her face was uglier than the shape of her ass, and said he would stop her for his own sake. Thinking she had no chance, Kaga tried telling Nika that Kabane was stronger, but the bitch began sucking on the other girl's brain, eventually draining the life force out of her. As she started sucking on Kaga, their combined juices made her metamorphose into a winged mosquito, and she told them that she wouldn't let them ruin her precious food pantry. Just as she began advancing towards them, she dodged Shiki's silk threads and caught Kabane before he could attack her vitals. As his attempts to kick her away failed, he realized she was stronger, but she stabbed him through the heart. With Shiki growing desperate to save him, he began charging forward, but she knocked him away. However, when Akira tried to unleash his ice powers, he realized he needed water, but the mosquito put his ass to sleep. With Kabane being the only kid left, he figured that Nika would end Shiki and Akira if she managed to beat him. But as he began trying to resist, her tight grip caused his bones to break. Figuring he was doing it all wrong, Mihai decided to tell him that the reason he wasn't strong enough to overpower her was because he was only using his human strength. As he told him to use his kimono strength, he asked him to use his instincts in figuring out what the most important thing to him was, so as Kabane realized it was to defeat her and save his friends, he discovered that his instinct was his heart. At that moment, he awakened his innate powers, healing his broken hand and overpowering Nika. Before she knew it, he ripped her arms off, but as the ugly bitch wondered how he managed to do so, Kabane realized it was the same power he felt when Shiro took his life stone. Just as he was about to rip her legs off, Yatero commanded him to stop and asked him to return with the others. As he explained that they were only hired to investigate, he said that Inari would take care of the rest, but at that moment, a creepy kid arrived. He introduced himself as Haru and said he worked for Inari, but as he asked Kabane to stand back, he marked her body with tiny lights before snapping his fingers to ignite it. With the girl reduced to ashes, Haru explained that they couldn't leave any evidence behind, and went on to consume the other girls. However, when Kabane was about to leave, Haru told him that Inari had not given up on his life stone, and revealed that he had been spying on him. As he warned him to be careful, he told him that he would only be safe if he willingly surrendered his life stone. But when Kabane wondered why he was revealing this, Haru told him that he hated Inari. A few days later at the office, Shiki decided to ask Yatero about what he once tried revealing about his parents, and told him that he was now ready to know. So the following week, they began heading to his town, and Kabane congratulated him, but Shiki thought they wouldn't get to see his parents. However, he decided to explain that he lived with his uncle before moving out to stay with Yatero, and said he even lived with his mother when he was younger. After they arrived at the town, Yatero told the children to wait at a store, so while they were inside, Kabane found the legend of Nishikagumo. As he decided to read the book, he discovered that it was the story of a spider that could spin golden webs, but Shiki thought he'd never heard of a worse story before. Right then, he noticed a girl staring at him, but when she ran off, Akira wondered how a girl could stare at his wretched face for more than a second.
Yo, that one there was a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have it.
Before long, Yatero arrived with Shiki's uncle, and the weird-looking douche said it had been a long time. A few minutes later, while they were sitting at the stream side, the ugly douche introduced himself as Hakio, and said that he was Shiki's uncle. Having figured that they intended to learn what happened to Shiki's mother, Hakio decided to reveal the story of how they met, and said they found her while researching the folklore of Kinshigo. However, as he was about to reveal the rest of it, Yatero suggested they give them some privacy. But in less than an hour, Shiki joined them at the store. When Akira asked him about his parents, Shiki revealed that they were both dead. But as he began saying that he'd been expecting to hear that, he remembered that Hakio had told him that his mother died when he was 5, and had said that his trauma was caused by the sight of her dead body. Shiki thought this was all the closure he needed, but as he thanked Yatero for bringing him here, Kabane thought he was only pretending to be fine. That night, while they were watching fireflies, Shiki began staring at a haunted tree, and as he realized he'd seen it before, he recalled a memory from his childhood. So as he began running through the forest, following the direction from his memories, Kabane tried to keep up. He remembered that his mother would always tell him to wait for her until she returned from work, but he had secretly followed her to a cabin. And just as he opened the door, the sight horrified him, so when he arrived at that same place, he was certain that his trauma wasn't caused by seeing his mother dying. He had discovered that a series of weird experiments were being performed on her, but as Kabane arrived with Haru, they discovered that the cabin was empty. Finding a deteriorated syringe, Haru revealed a kimono incident he had seen in older reports, and explained that there was once something called healing silk, which was woven into human organs as a missing cell. He had learned that a human was responsible for creating it, but said that Inari had suppressed it, and put the man responsible for it on her blacklist. Meanwhile, Yatero had decided to visit Hakio at his home, and asked to speak with him for a moment. At the same time, Haru revealed that the man on Inari's blacklist was Hakio, and explained that Hakio tried to use the kimono's power to obtain fame and fortune for himself. He told them that Hakio had tried selling healing silk at the marketplace, and thought it was all created in this lab, so as Shiki remembered what he saw on that day, he recalled that someone had knocked him out. When he woke up, Hakio told him that his mother was badly hurt from an accident, and said he needed to stay away from her for a while. But Shiki had been too brain dead to see through his lies. Eventually, he had concluded that she was dead and stopped asking about her, but as he was angry at himself for believing the words of his lying-ass uncle, he wished he'd trusted the fact that his mother would never abandon him. As he grew even angrier, he realized that he needed to make his rotten uncle pay. So when Haru wondered if he intended to eliminate him, Shiki told him that he would. However, when he asked Kabane if he would stop him, Kabane told him no, but Shiki was disappointed that he wouldn't even try. All the while, Hakio and Yatero were still walking, but when Yatero decided to ask about the golden spider webbing, revealing that he'd learned he was never able to sell any, Hakio wondered if he was the fork in his road the whole time. When Yatero revealed that it was actually someone else, he realized Hakio was the same scoundrel he'd always been, but asked to know more about the forbidden golden webbing. As Hakio said that he and his brother discovered that the legend of Nishikagumo was a true story, he pushed his brother off a cliff, wanting to make Shiki's mother his golden webbing factory. So after she decided to stay in the human world to look after her son, he gave her a proposal to turn her arachne powers into money, promising to give her a good life in return. However, all of their experiments had failed, so after Shiki found their test site, he had decided to keep him away from her until his memories became jumbled. Eventually, Shiki's mother had lost her life, but Haki was delighted that they managed a breakthrough after so many failed attempts. He called it their miracle golden webbing, and as he was certain that it had been perfected, he said it would cure illness and injury from the world. But he had fallen into Yatero's trap. Just as he revealed that he recorded every word he said, silk threads pulled him up on a tree, and with Shiki having arrived with his friends, he said he would make his death quick. As the nutcase began saying that it was a misunderstanding, and that he was only trying to support his mother, Shiki tightened the grip, telling him to keep his ugly mouth shut. However, Akira soon appeared, demanding to know why they abandoned him. He told them that he wet himself 3 times because he was afraid, and said that he was completely soaked all over. But Yataro realized this moron was the most useless kid he'd ever met. Just then, a monster appeared from the bushes, but as Yataro shot it, he managed to stop it again, before blasting it. When another monster appeared, Yataro realized he couldn't produce his gun again, but it pulled them into the bushes. At that moment, Shiki realized they were surrounded, but when Kabane wondered if they were kimono living in the forest, Haru revealed that they were actually Shiki's siblings, as Hakio began to explain that they were his brothers and sisters born during the course of the experiments. One of the monsters broke the silk, lowering Hakio to the ground. As Hakio went on to explain that they weren't the golden webbing, he said they still possessed some intelligence, and have learned the words of his mother Kumi. At that moment, they began calling Shiki's name, saying that they loved him, but when Shiki realized they had the same voice as his mother's, his memories of her forced him to break down. As he began to cry, Kabane decided to ask him what he wanted him to do, but Shiki asked that he help him. So as a beast charged at them, Kabane elbowed it into a tree. Meanwhile, Yataro and Akira had been cornered by another set of beasts, so in an attempt to stop the poison from spreading further into his body, he asked Akira to freeze his arm. However, she nearly froze his face too, but when the little girl appeared, she commanded the monsters not to attack them. When Yataro asked the girl who she was, she told him to follow her if he wished to heal his arm. At the same time, 2 other monsters attacked Kabane, but he crushed both of them, and began saying that Hakio was the one he actually wanted. With Hakio starting to grow afraid, he wondered what Kabane wanted with him, so Kabane told him that he wanted to end his worthless life. At that moment, a larger monster appeared, calling for Shiki, but as Kabane dodged its attack, he landed a blow right into its eye. At the same time, Haru was surrounded by another group of monsters, but when he tried calling for help, Kabane told him to suck it, so the moron snapped his fingers to consume them. With Shiki already growing sick, he asked Kabane to destroy all the monsters, so when they began charging at the same time, Kabane flew to eliminate them. Meanwhile, Yataro, Akira and the girl Aya had arrived at a spring, so as Aya told Yataro to dip his hand into the water, he decided to do so and realized his hand was healed. When Aya explained that the spring had a detoxifying effect, she revealed that it even healed Kimono, but told them that she needed to ask Hakio a question before he was sent to Nirvana. On the other side of the forest, Kabane had eliminated all the weird beasts, so as he regenerated his arm, he flung the loser away. With nothing left to protect him, Kabane told Shiki that they could kill him now, but Shiki apologized for making him get his hands dirty. Hearing the sound of his mother's voice in the monsters, Shiki had realized that killing Hakio wouldn't bring his family back, and said his only desire was to see his mother again. Right then, Aya appeared, but as Hakio began demanding to know why she was here, the girl told him to shut his garbage mouth. But when Hakio continued screaming at her to leave, Shiki wondered why this nutcase was getting frantic. However, Aya wasn't moved by this, so as she called him a disgrace, she demanded to know where her cocoon was. Wanting to remain an ass till the end, Hakio told her that he'd never reveal it. But when Kabane began wondering who the girl was, Aya told them that she couldn't reveal her identity yet. Wanting to repay her help, Yataro offered to help her track the cocoon, and said he'd had his eyes on Hakio for a long time. As he dialed Mihai's number, Yataro asked him to check for suspicious positions on Hakio's database. However, Mihai already figured out what he wanted, and told him to check the spring in a patch of skunk cabbage. Figuring where that was, Aya began running towards it, realizing the spring water had detoxifying effects because parts of the cocoon were dissolving into it. But as she began wading inside the water, Shiki stopped her, telling her that she'd drown, and offered to go instead. So as he dived under, he began searching for the cocoon. But as he found his mother trapped underwater, a shark beast began lurking behind him. Before long, the surface of the water was tainted with blood. But when the beast surfaced dead, Yataro emerged outside, revealing that their mother was still alive. Later that night, Aya revealed who she was and said she was the golden webbing. But when Yataro and the other kids arrived, they realized Kumi was still alive. When the rotten face began saying that he'd intentionally preserved her, he revealed that he intended to keep using her to produce more monsters, but Shiki silenced the dickhead. Hoping to save his mother, he told Yataro that he wanted to move her to a safer place, and began pulling Aya along. After they made it to the car, they noticed that Haru had disappeared, but Yataro suggested they return to Tokyo. After they arrived at a clinic, Yataro revealed that there must be a reason why Kumi wasn't waking up, and said that they were better off consulting a specialist. So after they arrived inside, he announced that they had a kimono case, so an old lady burst outside. Her name was Ohana, and as she began examining the body, she revealed that the problem was psychological, but said that she would brew up an epileptic herbal treatment for her. Realizing how ugly she was, Akira decided to ask Ohana if she was human, so Yataro explained that Ohana was a human veterinarian who started treating kimono while helping other animals. That same night, while everyone else was asleep, Aya waited outside the room, wondering if she had any right to see her mother. However, Shiki sensed her presence just as she was about to leave, and told her to come on in. He figured she was worried about their mother, so as he thought it was only normal, Aya asked him if he hated her. She called herself a bad seed that should be exterminated, and wondered why she wasn't killed like the other monsters, but Shiki told her that it was because she kept their mother alive. Compared to her, he thought he did nothing helpful for their mother, and told her that he was glad he met her. As his words brought tears to her eyes, she asked if she could call him Big Brother, but while Shiki was still stuttering, Kumi opened her eyes. Recognizing her children, she told them that she was happy to see them fine, but Aya began to cry. A few days later at the office, while Yataro and the children were having breakfast, he began telling them that he had a job for both of them, but they were disappointed that Shiki's seat was empty. They remembered he had told them that he would stay with his family for a week, as he needed to rethink things, but they thought he intended to quit being a kimonoist. However, when he showed up, wondering why they looked like a pair of losers suffering from a disease, he told them that he only stayed back because things had not settled. So as he remembered his promise, he told Kabane that he wouldn't quit until he helped him find his parents. At that moment, Aya stepped into the office like a model on Broadway, but when they wondered how she transformed so fast, Shiki told them that he was looking after her for the day. As Aya began telling Yataro that she had decided to work with Ohana at her clinic, she revealed that she intended to start her own cheminopathy clinic using the power of her silk. With Yataro agreeing to it, Shiki began calling it a ticking time bomb, but when he tried asking Kabane to help him, Kabane told him to get a life. Hearing that, Aya thought Kabane was amazing, so as she remembered how he single-handedly eliminated the monsters, she wondered if he had a girlfriend, and asked him to take her on a date. When Kabane agreed to go out with her, Shiki passed out from the betrayal, but when Kon burst inside and tried challenging Kabane to another fight, she began staring down the chick. A few minutes later, Yataro began to explain their mission, revealing that girls' faces were being peeled off by an angry kimono. But when Akira's weak ass passed out, Aya decided to take charge. However, when she began asking Kabane to go alone with her, Kon realized this chick was trying to cut in line, and offered to follow them. After they arrived at Harajuku Station, Aya continued snuggling on Kabane's arm, but when a policeman warned them to go back, Kon thought she'd found her opportunity to impress Kabane. So as she offered to handle it, she reminded him that she was Inari's subordinate, and said that policemen were her servants.
警視庁のコンだ。
はあ、バカなこと言ってないで、もう帰りなさい。
You're a victim.
As Kabane decided to reveal that they were Yataro's Strangeness Counseling Office, the policeman decided to direct them. But as Kabane caught the scent of a kimono, Kon decided to march on. When Kabane tried warning her to be careful, she told him to shut the f*** up, so Aya suggested they ditch the bitch. However, while they were walking away, an invisible entity pulled Aya by her hair, but when Kabane began wondering where it was, he decided to throw a punch. Luckily, he hit it in the face and caught Aya, but when Kon arrived, the kimono decided to reveal itself. When Kabane wondered why it was attacking people, it revealed that it wanted to be more human, and said it wanted to approach the mannequin across the road. However, its disgusting form made it jealous of the ladies and attacked them. But when Kon realized she felt the exact same way, she grew angry and began blaming Aya for coming between her and Kabane. Before she could devour her, Kabane used his arm as a shield, but when the stupid bitch realized that Aya was leveraging the opportunity, she decided to run away. After Kabane and Aya returned to the office that evening, Aya revealed that they took care of the job, and explained that she covered the kimono with her silk to make her look human. However, that night, Kabane decided to check Kon on the tree, and shook it until she fell out. But when he noticed she was crying, he stopped her from climbing back up. So as she began saying that he must hate her for wanting to eat the brat, Kabane explained that she was Shiki's little sister. However, Kon couldn't care less about her, and felt a death-like sensation inside of her heart. But as the touch of his hand made her feel better, she asked him how she could become his number one. But he revealed that he didn't know. Even so, she asked him to always comfort her the way he did. The following day, Aya returned again, saying that she wanted to spend the day with her boyfriend. But when Kon arrived at the same time, they stared each other down again, and Kon called her an ugly brat. Afraid that a brawl would break out, Akira told Kabane to choose one of them, explaining that he could only love one person. So as Kabane decided to choose, the following week in the city, a dude knocked down one loser, but after he stopped, they cornered him in an alley, demanding to be paid $300 for dry cleaning service. However, the dude decided to ask if they knew who Yatero was, and showed them a crappy-ass drawing. But when they told him that they didn't, he turned one of them into ice. At the same time in the office, Akira was freaking out after realizing that his plushie had been split open. But with Shiki barely giving a shit, he told Kabane that the moronic kid gave the plushie the name of his brother because its face looked like him. Figuring a solution, Yatero suggested they ask Mihai to fix it, since he had free time. So a few hours later, after Mihai was done, he revealed that he installed an AI in it, and Akira thought it was amazing. However, when he began wondering how his plushie mysteriously split open, he thought it had something to do with his brother, because when they were little, they shared a very special bond, with Akira having always been a crybaby. They were never allowed to leave the village, because they were the Yuki-on-Noko, the only pair of twin boys born once every 100 years, and were never even allowed to see their parents since the time they were born. At the office, Yatero told the children to separate the remains of the Sandman's significant other who passed away at the beach. But when Shiki wondered how they were supposed to separate one sand from another, Yatero told him to use his brain. When the boys began trying to figure it out, Akira tripped and fell on the bags. All through that day, he continued breaking various items and ruining everything he touched. So when Shiki reached his boiling point, he began screaming at him for being useless and told him to quit being a weak, unwanted burden. However, when Kabane tried to be gentler, he told Akira that he was truly more useless than anyone he had ever met. And even though he wasn't just being useless, he thought Akira was born to be a f***up, so he told him not to bother at all. With Akira having heard enough, he decided to leave, and after leaving a letter that he was quitting, he decided to hit the road. However, while he was wondering where he could go, he realized he was broke, but when a dude walked past him, Akira realized it was his brother Yui. All those years ago, they had found the abandoned items of a human and had the dream to go to Tokyo. So as Akira began thinking that their dream was coming to reality, he wondered where they could go. Back at the office, Kabane and Shiki were done separating the sand. But when Yatero showed Kabane Akira's letter, he asked if he thought Akira was good for nothing. When Kabane affirmed that he was, he thought it was alright for the kid to be a loser, but Yatero realized they needed to be allowed to figure things out. Before long, Shiki grew bored and began wondering what they could do for fun, but Kabane couldn't think of anything. All the while, Akira and Yui had made it out of the city, but when Akira began saying that he wanted to live in an ice castle, Yui summoned one in an instant. While inside, Akira realized it was nearly everything he wanted. But when he tried taking photos for social media, Yui froze it instantly, saying that he wouldn't be needing a phone. With Akira heartbroken, he soon noticed the angry look in Yui's eyes, and as it made him shut up, Yui locked him up. At the office, Shiki had burned the dinner, so when Kabane went out to buy himself another, he realized they needed Akira's cooking skills. After he returned to the office, he decided to tell Shiki that Akira was not good for nothing, but that he was actually good for something. So as Shiki realized it was true, he admitted that he must have gone too far. But when he began wondering how they could find Akira, Yatero found the ice castle on the web. By the time they arrived at the site, they found a group of people and reporters, but when Yui stepped outside, warning everyone to stay away from the castle, Yatero shot him before he could attack them. Just as everyone ran off, Yui realized he was Yatero, but when Yatero discovered he had ice powers, he noticed the stone in his heart. When Kabane realized it looked just like his life stone, Yatero revealed that it was actually a null stone, and explained that kimono power had been embedded within it, which brought about death. It was created to destroy and revive a barren and blighted land. So when Yatero wondered what must have happened to his village, Yui told him to stick his question up his ass, but thanked him for taking care of Akira. At that moment, they realized he was Akira's brother, but Yui released a snowstorm and wondered who they were to Akira. Kabane told him that they were his friends and said they wanted to bring him back home because he ran away. Inside the castle, Akira's plushie had projected chats from the web, and Akira was excited that his photo was trending. However, when he wondered why his brother had grown cold, the plushie explained that there was an abnormal reading in his life signs, and that the temperature around his heart was extremely low, which was disturbing him mentally. Just then, Yui appeared and summoned him downstairs, but when Akira arrived, he found his friends frozen in ice. While he was in shock, Yui began saying that they were everything he wanted and explained that they came here to get him, but said he wouldn't allow him to go outside. As Akira broke down from the shock, Yui began thinking he was sick, so he offered to check for mint growing in the woods and sealed him inside. With Akira alone, he began thinking his friends were dead, but the plushie told him that they were still alive, so Akira remembered that Kabane could not be killed. However, when he began thinking that they would eventually die if they stayed frozen, the clown started wondering how he could melt it. At the same time, Yui was searching the woods for mint, but remembered what happened all those years ago. Because after he became the chief of the snowy village, he spent every day wondering why Akira wasn't chosen instead of him, but would never tell his brother all the things that happened. From the time he became the chief, he learned everything about the village, including the nullstone, which carried great power, and surrounded the village with a snowstorm that protected them from humans. Over 200 women dominated the village, carrying out hunts without the support of any man, and would compete over individual strength. However, they soon began breaking taboos and revealing their faces to Yui, pelting him with curses of their corruption, and making him drown in their hatred and animosity for each other. Luckily, the warmth and kindness from his brother managed to pull him back each time. So even after he returned to the ice castle and Akira told him that he needed salt for his bathtub, Yui didn't think twice before going back out to get him some. But Akira wondered what was really going on with him. However, he thought he was the only one that could stop him and save his friends. But Inari and Haru had arrived outside. They were impressed with the power of the nullstone, having learned that it fed off of life, but Inari wondered where Yui was. Inside the ice castle, Akira was wondering how he could unfreeze his friends, but the plushie told him that he was too useless to unfreeze this ice. At that moment, the ice began melting, and as Kabane's body started trembling, his upper half went rolling away. However, he soon regenerated, but when he explained the power of the nullstone, Akira figured it was responsible for Yui's immense power. As Kabane began saying that he needed to beat him, Akira realized he intended to fight his brother, and was afraid that it would only end in disaster. But as Kabane went on to apologize for calling him useless and said that he was important to them, he asked him to come back to the office. However, Akira decided to pull back and began saying that he actually told his brother to deal with them, as he flung away his plushie. Thinking he was only pretending, Kabane began wondering why he was telling lies, but Akira told him that he had always felt this way, and said that he hated him. At that moment, Yui arrived, but Akira covered Kabane before he could attack, so as he told Yui that he didn't care about his friends anymore, he suggested they leave the castle. However, while they were walking through the forest, Akira hoped that Kabane would take care of everything. At the same time in the castle, the plushie decided to explain Akira's plan to Kabane, so after he bathed Yataro and Shiki in salt, he stuffed the plushie in between them to generate heat. Just as he spaced out, Inari appeared before him, but as he wondered how the bitch got inside, she told him that she was after the nullstone and asked if he would help her. Inside the forest, Yui and Akira were walking further away, but Yui remembered the time they strolled around the village together. Akira had asked him if his duty as the chief was difficult, having noticed that he was always gloomy, but Yui told him to focus on the only stupid thing he knew how to do, which was to smile, and asked him to remain pure. He thought Akira would be forced to become a chief once the women discovered he was a man, and that they would all compete to take in his seed, so he decided to summon all of them, and asked that they allow Akira to leave the village in exchange for him satisfying all of their desires. After they agreed, Yui told Akira to head south to find Yataro in Tokyo, promising to join him soon. However, when he learned that the women intended to kill his brother, he decided to confront the leader, but when they tried to restrain him, Yui managed to escape. Inside the forest, he sensed someone approaching, so as he covered Akira with large ice crystals, he turned it into a cage, but Haru appeared on a tree. Desperate to get rid of him, Yui attacked with ice, catching his foot as he jumped, but Haru melted it off, transforming into a fox. At the ice castle, Inari was explaining that the nullstone was just like the life stone, and said that Kabane could learn more about his parents if she managed to acquire it. But when he thought it was another one of her useless tricks, Yataro told him to go ahead. With the man still frozen, Kabane wondered how he managed to speak, so the plushie explained that it was delivering his message based on his heart tone and brainwaves. As Yatero convinced Kabane that Inari wouldn't attack them, he asked him to save Akira, so Kabane ran off. Back in the forest, Haru was running across the bushes, but as he summoned half a dozen clones, Yui unleashed ice crystals to eliminate them, before releasing another set of crystals on the others. However, Haru continued running through the fog, and just as he noticed Yui was distracted, he tried stealing the null stone, but it withered his hand. Realizing what he was after, Yui told him that the stone would do him no good. But as Haru decided to hide away, he thought Inari had intentionally sent him to retrieve it even though she knew it was dangerous. Figuring it was impossible to retrieve the stone, Haru concluded on retrieving Yui's entire body. Just as Yui launched ice crystals, one nearly connected, but Kabane kicked him away. However, he apologized for doing so and offered to help him, but as Haru warned him that he would get frozen once he got too close, he revealed that they needed to knock Yui out. At the same time, Akira was trying to force his way out, but when he saw flames in the fog, Kabane nearly landed a blow on Yui. So as the fires from his body began melting the ice, Yui realized he intentionally set his body on fire. But when Kabane began to overpower him, he released his ice powers. Right then, ice armor spread around his body, so when Kabane attacked this time, he easily parried him. But Akira was crying in the cage. However, when he noticed the fog was getting thicker, he decided to solidify it into a giant snowflake, dropping it down on the cage. All the while, Yui and Kabane were still battling each other, but when his fires went out, he asked Haru to increase his flames. However, Haru warned him that his body would fall apart and said that it would make him weaker, but Kabane told him that he could hold it for a few seconds. Agreeing to give it a shot, Haru doused him with immense fire, so as Kabane leveraged his adrenaline to rush forward, he hit him with a series of attacks that melted off the ice before landing double blows. However, before he could attack again, his body began disintegrating, but Akira stood in his way to stop him, as he watched the rest of his body fall apart. Just as Yui demanded to know why he was out, the nullstone released ice crystals and withered his body. So as Haru appeared, he revealed that Yui had run out of energy and said he would wither away if the stone was left inside of him. At that moment, Kabane began to regenerate, and as he said that he wouldn't allow Yui to die without asking him about the nullstone, Akira began trying to pull it out. Just as his ice powers activated, he began seeing all of Yui's memories, and saw the moment he ran up the mountain to summon the power of the nullstone, which created the massive snowstorm that wiped out the entire village. As Kabane decided to support Akira, he vomited his life stone, and just as they connected, a ray of colorful lights shined across the forest, but the ice castle crumbled. When Kabane realized that the stones had fused together, Inari appeared to claim it, and revealed that the life stone was counteracting the power of the nullstone. Just as Haru figured the bitch must have anticipated this outcome, Yatero told her that the stone belonged to Kabane, and asked her to give it back. But the bitch having no other choice, she decided to surrender the stone. But just as Haru began to follow her, Kabane asked him to stay with them, saying that Aya could heal his hand. However, he declined the offer, saying that he would take it as his punishment for being reckless. Later that night, while at the clinic, Akira found Kabane outside Yui's room, and decided to apologize for saying that he hated him. He was afraid that they would all be killed if he didn't say so, so as he told him that he actually loved him, they began moving in circles. A few minutes later, Yui began revealing that he destroyed the village, but said he'd lost control of the stone. When Kabane decided to ask what he knew about the nullstone, saying that he was looking for his parents, Yui told him that the nullstone existed in the snow village for the last 1,000 years. However, when he asked if he ever heard of the kimono incidents, Kabane told him that he didn't, so Yatero revealed that it was the war between humans and kimono. It had all happened 1,000 years ago, but as part of the lesson, Yatero revealed that kimono had decided to rectify the way they got along with humans, which was the turning point that allowed them to live among them. Yui thought the kimono stones were created so that there would never be another conflict with humans, and said that the most powerful kimono had imbued the stones with power. Hoping for more answers, Yatero suggested they search for other kimono stones, explaining that there could be clues left behind as to how his parents got the stone. Meanwhile, Inari was still desperate to have Kabane's stone, so as she told Haru that she had not given up on it, she explained that she needed to get it in a way that Yatero couldn't argue about. So that same night, Haru decided to meet Kon, and told her that Inari would pardon her if she managed to get Kabane to hand over his stone. The following day, when Yatero and Kabane were about to go on a trip, in their search for another one of the kimono stones, Shiki offered to stay behind. However, just before they left, Kan appeared before them and began saying that she wished to follow them on their journey. When Kabane wondered how she knew about it, Yatero figured that Inari must have asked her to spy on them, but the brain-dead chick tried persuading them that it wasn't true. Deciding to play along, Yatero agreed that she followed them, so as he told Kabane that they were finally getting started on his request to find his parents, they headed off together. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.